What are the prerequisite software that you require to install on your machine to get started with ASP.NET Core? Mainly, you require three: Visual Studio, SQL Server, and Postman. Visual Studio is the preferred IDE to create and develop ASP.NET Core web applications, and you will require SQL Server for databases, and you require Postman in order to test your controllers by sending a request. But we will install the other two in the respective sections. So for time being, at the beginning, it is only enough to install Visual Studio. So go to this official website of Microsoft, that is visualstudio.microsoft.com. And here you have three individual editions of Visual Studio. That is Community, Professional, and Enterprise. For learning purposes and also for small teams in production, the Community is enough. So I prefer installing Community 2022. So just click on that Download Visual Studio Community 2022. So then you will get a small file here, that is Visual Studio Setup.exe file. And double click on the same to open up the same. And click on Yes, so that Visual Studio installer gets started. Click on Continue here. Who will read the license terms? So you have that Visual Studio Community 2022 installer gets opened. Here, the main component that is required for ASP.NET Core is ASP.NET and web development. This itself is enough for ASP.NET Core application development. So check this checkbox. And optionally, for creating console and Windows applications using C# or VB, you can optionally select this .NET Desktop Development. And in addition to this, switch to the tab called Individual Components. Here optionally you can select .NET 5 runtime, so that you will be able to use .NET 5 or .NET 6 as per the choice. But in case if you are not interested in .NET 5, it is not required. It is optional. These .NET Framework components are optional. In case if you are planning to use ASP.NET MVC by using .NET Framework, then only you require all these components, otherwise not required. So in our code's perspective, these components are not required. So click on Install button here. Installation started. And uncheck this checkbox called Start After Installation here, so that you will be learning how do you open Visual Studio from the Start menu. Alright, now installation has been completed. Now anytime soon when you want to install or uninstall any one of the components in Visual Studio, you can open up this Visual Studio installer from the Start menu and click on Modify, so that you can install or uninstall any components of Visual Studio. Alright, presently it is not required, so try to close it. So we have successfully installed Visual Studio on our machine. In order to open up the same, go to the search icon in the Start button. Here search for Visual Studio. Type Visual Studio. You will be able to see this icon Visual Studio 2022. Open up the same. This is the welcome screen of Visual Studio 2022. But before you get started with the first application development, you have to log in into Visual Studio with your Microsoft account. That is why it automatically opens up this pop-up, sign in into Visual Studio. In case if this pop-up doesn't appear for you, no problem. For example, try to close this and click on continue without code here. So it opens the main screen of Visual Studio. Here, in the top right corner, you will see sign in button over here. So click on that and you will get sign in pop-up here. In case if you have the Microsoft account already, you can log in with the same here. In case if not, you can create a new mail ID. This time I am trying to create a new email address. So click on create one. Here click on get a new email address and enter any email address of your choice to create one for free. For example, I am trying to enter Harsha ASP.NET Core. You can enter any name that you want. And I am selecting at outlook.com. So this email address will be created right now. Click on create and enter a new password. You can enter any password of your choice. And optionally uncheck this checkbox. And then click on next. And complete this puzzle. Now you have successfully logged in into Visual Studio with your Microsoft account. It is required to activate Visual Studio Community for free. In case any time when you want to sign in or sign out, you can use this icon here and click on Account Settings. So we have just installed Visual Studio, but how do you create the first ASP.NET Core web application? We will try that in the next lecture.